everyone, welcome to this video on growing sweet peppers in containers using coconut coir as a growing medium. You can see here the end result was a beautiful crop of nice red delicious peppers. It is fall now and the plant still lives on since I took a cutting from the mother plant and it is growing in a new container and flowering, getting ready to produce yet another crop. I started these peppers from seeds. Here you can see the seeds I used. These are from Burpee. They are called Jungle Parrot and are ready to harvest in around 75 days after transplanting. Here you can see what the seeds look like. To start the seeds, I planted them in organic soil in styrofoam cups. I punched holes in the bottom of the styrofoam cups and then put the styrofoam cups into another cup, and so that when I watered the seeds, the excess water could drop down to the bottom cup. Then I covered the cups with sandwich baggies to keep the environment humid for the seeds and waited for the seedlings to emerge. Okay, here we are 14 days later and a seedling has begun to develop, as you can see here, and in the other cup, nothing yet. Okay, it's 2 days later, 16 days after I planted the seeds, and finally a seedling is beginning to emerge from the second cup. The seeds did not sprout at the same time, even though I planted them at the same time under the same conditions. Okay, now it is a week later, day 23, so the seedlings are a little more than 3 weeks old, and you can see the seedlings look about the same height at this point, and both seem to be doing very nicely. All right, now let's take a look a few days later. These seedlings are now 28 days old, so it is 4 weeks since I planted these seeds. Here we are a week later. Now you can see the seedlings at 5 weeks still doing nicely. Okay, we are at 8 weeks and you can see the pepper plants are still growing taller and putting out nice leaves. I have them growing under grow lights and both plants are doing equally well. It's the next day and I decided to transplant these pepper plants into bigger containers since they have started to outgrow the styrofoam cups. I have some coconut coir that I had rehydrated and I'm going to use it instead of soil, but you can use organic soil just the same way as coconut coir. I have a video on how to use coconut coir if you are interested. I will leave a link for it in this video and also in the description box below. There are advantages and disadvantages to both, so use whichever medium you feel comfortable with. The coconut coir is easy to store in the house, and so I usually have a couple of bricks on hand to use instead of soil. Here you can see I am transplanting the small plants into bigger containers which I filled with coconut coir, and they remained in these pots until they matured and produced peppers. Here you can see the transplanted peppers in their new home feeling nice and happy. Okay, let's look in on the plants 3 weeks after I transplanted them, and you can see they are doing very nicely, both of them. This one I kept under the grow lights, and the other I put on my bay window, which faces southwest and gets plenty of light. Both plants are doing really nicely. Okay, it is now day 90 days since I first planted these seeds, and you can see this plant, which has been in the sunny window, is doing beautifully. And let's have a look at the one under the grow lights, and you can see there are lots of buds and flowers developing all over the plant. Very exciting. Okay, it is now day 95 and the flowers are opening and developing on both plants now. So I need to pollinate the flowers since these are indoor plants and there are no bees around to do the job. I use a small paintbrush and go in and out of each of the flowers, from flower to flower, just like a bee would. Let's have a look at the plant in the sunny window, and it has also started to put out leaves and needs to be pollinated as well. I don't know if you can see it, but when I stroke the inside of the flower, you can see a fine white powder coming off onto the paintbrush. That is the pollen, and then by going from flower to flower with the paintbrush, I'm doing the bee's job of pollinating the flowers with my paintbrush. Here we are at day 98. And you can see, if you look really closely, the fruit of the peppers are starting to form behind the flowers. Okay, we are at day 100, and you can see the peppers are pushing their way past the flowers and starting to announce themselves to the world. They are green at this point, and they will remain green for quite a while before turning purple and then finally red when they are ready to eat. As I look around the plant, you can see the peppers in different stages of development. This one here still has a flower attached to it, and this one here has already pushed out of the flower. And here you can see some of the flowers still attached to this one. We have a really nice crop of peppers starting to develop. Now let's have a look at the plant in the window. You can see it is also doing quite well. It is not as bushy and robust as the plant under the grow lights, but it is also producing a crop, as you can see. Okay, now it's just 4 days later, day 104, and you can see how much the peppers have grown. Remember, I grew these in the coconut coir, and I feed them once every 2 weeks with Miracle Grow fertilizer. Here you can see what I use. It comes with a measuring spoon inside, so you can use the smaller end, which is a 1/4 teaspoon, and measure out 2 of those, so it's really a 1/2 teaspoon into a gallon of water. It is very easy to use, and it is necessary when you are growing in coconut coir to give the plants some nutrients, since the coir really doesn't contain any nutrients that I know of. Let's have a look at the plant in the window. And yes, it also has peppers, but it's pretty obvious that the plant under the grow lights is growing much faster and producing a much bigger crop. Now it's day 109, and you can see there are lots of peppers here, and also more flowers that will presumably turn into peppers. I continue to pollinate the new flowers with my trusty paintbrush. I'm not 100% sure they need it, but it does seem to produce a nice crop of peppers, so I don't want to mess with my method if it seems to be working. Let's have a look at the pepper plant that is in the bay window, not under the grow lights. It also has some peppers growing, although not as many, but it is still producing. Okay, it is day 111, 111 days since I planted these as seeds. And I took the plants down from their usual resting place to have a better look. It's hard to get a good look at them when they're up on a shelf under the grow lights. You can see the coconut coir that I used as a planting medium. It is nice and clean, which is one of the reasons people use it instead of soil. It really feels nice to run my fingers through it, unlike soil, which feels dirty, unless you like the feel of that. Okay, let's take a good look around the plant now that I have a better angle to view it. And this one is the plant that was under the grow lights. You can see the beautiful peppers it is producing. And let's have a look at the plant that has been on the bay window receiving the sunlight that comes through the window. And you can see it is also producing peppers, although not as many as the other plant, which is producing many more peppers. And the plant that was under the grow lights is understandably shorter and bushier. By the way, I did not prune these plants at all. I just left them to grow the way they normally grow naturally. And here you can see side by side the plant that was at the window is much taller because it has to stretch up looking for light, whereas the plant under the grow lights has the lights low enough, close enough that it doesn't need to stretch up. Even the leaves feel different between the two plants. The leaves from the plant under the grow lights feel sturdier and look greener. The leaves from the plant in the window are a little limpy feeling and are not as green. I'm still pollinating the flowers with my paintbrush. I'm not sure when to stop, but I figured the bees never stop. So as long as there are flowers, there are bees, and I'm going to keep pollinating with my paintbrush. So now here we are at day 118. That is 118 days since I first planted the pepper seeds. And let's have a look at the plant under the grow lights. And we can see I have 5 peppers that are growing nice and big, and more coming out, and even more flowers. And here is the plant on the bay window, also doing fine. It's true that the plant under the grow lights is producing a fuller plant with more peppers and flowers, but this one in the bay window is not doing so bad. It is also producing a crop of peppers. It is now 3 weeks later, day 139, 139 days since I planted the pepper seeds. And it is June. It was a very long winter, and I figured the plants might like a chance to get outdoors for a little while. I also wanted to have more space in the house to grow more plants, so I took these outside. You can see they are already starting to turn red. Today is day 144. 144 days since I started these plants as seeds, and now we finally have peppers I can pick. Beautiful red peppers ready for harvest. Some of these are still green, but they turned red soon after I made this video. Yes, it would have been quicker to buy these in the grocery store, that's for sure, but what would be the fun in that? The story doesn't end there. Here you can see a new pepper plant that I started from a cutting that I took. I just cut off one of the branches from the mature plant and planted it directly in soil indoors in a new container. And the new plant is starting to produce flowers and even some peppers. It will need to be transplanted into a bigger container. This container is just not big enough. So how's that for the cycle of a pepper's life from seed to harvest and beyond? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below. And thank you for watching. Bye!